Perfect timing.
Yay! Well, folks, the reason I'm recording, if you guys haven't picked it up from last week, was that we have new members that come in, and we also have members who missed it because they were out partying. So, so Hylos is pretty good about posting this up on the website, and
Cool.
Hylos recorded the first one. Hey, Hylos, what I found out was when I was recording it, I was in HD mode. So if you look at the first session, I'm kind of hanging off the right edge, and the Lightroom is hanging off the left edge as well.
Yes.
So what I've done this time, I just went back to the original mode. So I'm hoping everything kind of fits on the same screen.
Oh, good, good. That'll be better.
Yeah, I think so. So, folks, again, session two. Thanks to everyone who made it through session one. Michael and Diane, what we covered were a lot of the basic tools. We will cover them again this evening, but like anything else, practice makes perfect, and that's the reason why we're kind of striking out here on it. There's a handout that I'll give out to you guys. Just a little bit of background. I found out that it's better if I give you the handout and the files after the session because almost every session there's a couple questions that come up, and I like to include those in the slides so when I give them back to you, that it's all covered there as well. So the handout will be coming to you along with the slides that we'll kind of work through here this evening as well. So again, pictures will go to you before and after, and then looking at the slides, you can go through and just kind of figure out how everything works. The handout is geared mainly to information, and I'm surprised Chuck's not on here. This is all about Chuck and Rob. Where are they? Anyway, we're going to do file importing, Marge and Rosary, like about 20 times faster than we did last week. So I think you'll find it's a lot easier process than I made it out to be. So I think that's a good thing. Uh, for those of you who may joined after Hylos and I were talking, uh, we've gotten all the mentors. We've had more than enough people volunteer to cover those in the core, and I've
Awesome.
opened it up to some other folks. So my hats off to the club members who have offered to
Indeed.
kind of help you guys and me too. So it's all good. Uh, so we're going to go through the handout here in just a minute, and the handout here in just a minute, and then we'll kind of go into editing stuff. Um, the handout has all the detail I'm going to cover and more, but I just want to let you know that don't freak out if you don't catch everything. It'll be in the handout explaining how to do it. And if you haven't figured it out by now, I like pictures, so that's going to happen as well. I'm sorry, give me 1 second here.
Here, here comes Chuck.
Okay. So I guess Chuck's ears were burning. So here he comes. I'm going to show you photos of this in just a minute. I kind of covered most of this with some folks last week to give them a little bit more behind the scenes detail. And since then, I've been able to kind of optimize it a little bit, but it's important information. We're going to go through it kind of quickly, but I think it's worth just kind of understanding how everything works. And the last thing I'd like to cover in this is that in talking to you folks, of course, this is a Lightroom classic session, but I just have a feel that some of you may be perfectly happy just doing Photoshop elements. So I want to cover that at the very end. Here's the good news. Almost everything we cover in Lightroom has a rough equivalent in Photoshop elements. I downloaded it myself last night. went through it in about 5 minutes, imported some files into Photoshop Elements, and you know what? It wasn't terribly different. It was different, but it was all the stuff basically was there. But so I want to cover that at the very end so that you guys, from a monetary standpoint, as well as a functionality standpoint, you may find Photoshop Elements is just fine. So again, Lightroom Classic and Photoshop Elements are kind of alike. It's just the interface and some of the functionality is different, but you know, exposure is exposure, and it's all good no matter which app you hear it in. The key thing I want to let you know about Lightroom is that whenever you import a file into Lightroom, that file is never touched. It's never changed by Lightroom. Lightroom creates what we call a sidecar. It's a little metadata file, and all the changes you made. Remember last week we did some cropping, and then we did some adjustment brushes around the edges of Joey's peppers and stuff like that. All that information was stored in the metadata. So the key thing I want to leave with you here on this information right here is that Lightroom does not fool with your original images, which is different from Photoshop. It's different from Capture One, and it's different from Photoshop Elements, which do in fact modify your original image unless you choose to file save as and give it a different name. So that's probably one of the biggest distinctions between Lightroom and everything else. Two parts to Lightroom. The first part is the catalog. As Marge would say, this is the table of contents. Every file in the catalog is stored in here, and anytime you move a file to a different location, the catalog keeps track of it. Remember when I said when you imported a file into Lightroom that it never modifies the original? Well, that's true. What Lightroom creates is a preview of that file. So whenever you make some changes to a file and you come back the next time, you're looking at a preview that has been saved in the catalog. So just let you know, that's really what the catalog is doing. It's doing the table of contents. It's keeping track of files you add or pull out or move around and do that. Within the Lightroom file, sometimes it creates a sidebar as soon as you make an edit to that file. And I'll show you a little bit here in just a second. So let's say right now, Marge, if I were to go out and wipe my catalog, the question is, OMG, what have I lost?
Yes.
The answer is you would have lost previews, little pictures of all the images that are within Lightroom. You would not lose the XMP file that stored all the information. The other thing you would lose is all the ratings, 1, 2, 3, and the stars, and that sort of. I think the stars is different, but like the pick and not pick and the color labels and all that would be lost, as well as adding files to a collection. Let's say, for example, Judy wants to add certain files into a collection into Lightroom. It's kind of a nice little thing on the side, and Photoshop Elements does the same thing. You just drag a copy of the file over into that, and you have a nice little virtual showing of basically all of your files. So you would lose that with the catalog, but you really wouldn't lose anything else. So just let you know, it's a pain in the butt whenever you bring Lightroom up after losing your catalog, but it's not the end of the world. You do not lose your files. Your files are totally separate. So over here in the other folders where you keep your files, if you were to lose those, that's when you pull out that bottle of Chardonnay and you just start drinking. Because you have lost the farm.
What can I ask a question, Pat?
Say again?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What kinds of things would cause you to lose your previews or your catalog?
When the file gets deleted, and there's sometimes that the Lightroom catalog, mine never has. Hylos, has your Lightroom ever been corrupted?
No, not yet.
Mine
Knock on,
hasn't either.
knock
So
on wood anyway.
knock on wood, it's still good. So Marge, well, the catalog appears to be pretty rock solid, but uh, but if you were to lose it, it's not the end of the world because the catalog is separate from the actual files.
So my question for you, Pat,
Okay.
is so my catalog then has moved all the images to my hard drive, but there's not enough room on the hard drive, and I want to move it back to an external drive. How do I do that?
It's
How
real
do
easy.
Real,
It's real easy.
uh-huh.
I'm going to show you here in just a minute when I do an import and just kind of let you see how everything works.
Okay.
Um, the key thing to remember is Lightroom, just like Marge said, it's a table of contents. But the table of contents has to be open as you're making changes and doing all that. If you leave the table of contents, if you're outside of Lightroom and you make changes to your file structure, or you delete files or you add new files and you don't do it in Lightroom, Lightroom does not have a clue what you just did. So whenever you move files, or like Judy says, she wants to add an external drive and move her files over to it because she needs more room, that's absolutely fine. But you have to do it within Lightroom.
Mm.
I would recommend, and I know some people will say, well, Pat, I'm shooting JPEG and I ain't changing. And there's a couple good reasons to do this. First of all, your RAW files are much bigger than your JPEGs. So if you're like Michael, he probably shoots a lot. Michael, when you shoot, are you shooting RAW or RAW plus JPEG or just JPEG?
It depends on the situation. Normally, for all of my shooting, like landscape and nature photography, I shoot in RAW. But if I'm shooting a massive wedding party or event, I'll shoot in JPEG.
Okay. Uh, the reason why I asked that, one of the questions that always comes up in Lightroom is, why is it whenever I'm editing a file, I never save it? The reason being is if you ever want, say you shoot a RAW, say Michael goes out to the Blue Ridge Mountains and he's up there and he shoots beautiful landscapes. He does it all in RAW, but he wants to send some files over to Rosary. Within Lightroom, to save a file, you basically have to export it as a JPEG, as a TIFF, as a PNG. You can do all that, but it's typically you would do a file export. So within Lightroom, it's still in its native format, which is a RAW file. Rosary, what kind of camera do you have?
The Sony, the A7 III.
Okay. So with Sony, if you look over here on the right side, Sony has a file extension that's ARW. And I know Jim has a Canon. It seems to me someone else here has a Canon too, don't they?
I do.
Okay, Michael's got
I
a Canon and Diane too. So your raw files extensions are .cr2. So that's how when you're looking at your film strip and it shows you all your pictures, images that you have, if you look up in the upper right-hand corner, it'll say .psd for Photoshop or .cr2 if you have a Canon RAW file. But if you brought your file in as a JPEG, it's going to show it as a .jpg. So as far as the file structure goes, whenever you edit a file, it creates, I say this because there's a setting you can change in Photoshop to basically don't save a sidecar and put it directly in the file. But I don't want to go there yet because the default is to create a sidecar. And that sidecar is that XMP file. So that's the one that saves all your metadata. Here's the good news. You don't have to worry about it because you will never see it. But I just want to let you know, it's like Anne-Marie or Marie-Anne was saving files and she moved them and she didn't know what these little XMP files were when she moved them in Windows Explorer. So, Judy, if you're moving files or folders, should you do that in Windows Explorer or within Lightroom?
I think you said earlier within Lightroom.
Virtual high five. Go girl. So you're absolutely right.
Yes.
Absolutely right. That's the best way to do it.
So, Pat, can I ask a question about the RAW plus JPEG?
Sure.
Is there a benefit to do both? Like, I just got overwhelmed because I had both types in my camera, and I'm thinking as you're talking that maybe just do the RAW, and if I need to export it and send it, then great, I'll export as a JPEG. But in general, do I need to store them both in my system?
I think it's a personal preference. I will tell you about 5 years ago, for about 3 years, I was shooting RAW plus JPEG. And the reason being is Joy and I were traveling overseas, and I wanted to have the ability when I took the memory card and put in a laptop that I had a JPEG already there. And you know what I found out? I never did it once. So it's just a choice.
You sure? Huh?
So, so Rosemary, to answer your question, I think it's a personal choice. Here's the problem, though. Whenever you bring your film strip into Lightroom, I believe there's an option to show the associated JPEG with the RAW, or just show the RAW. I haven't done it in a number of years, so I don't remember. If you want to just totally blow your mind, bring your Photoshop up with about 1,000 photos, and then all of a sudden add in another 1,000 JPEGs on that film strip, and your mind will just go like this. So, but it's a personal choice. Some of you may say, hey, all this RAW stuff is just great, but I'm comfortable with JPEG. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. But if I can, let me show you what it looked. Rosemary, did I answer your question?
Yes, and I just wanted you to know there's been a few times that I think my internet's unstable, and when you were talking, but I did get the gist of it. It happened, so I might get dropped, and I'll just come back in if that's the case.
Okay. Okay. Here's an example of a Nikon. Mine is NEF for Nikon, just like Hylos's and Judy's. Our RAW files have a .NEF on the end. So here's the shot I did up in Blue Ridge last October. Here's how it works. Within Lightroom, on the right side, any changes I made are in that little sidecar. So in Lightroom, whenever I look at that same file on the left side, it's got all the changes. So this is what they call the preview file. So if you have a RAW file and you make changes and you look at it, you are not looking at the original RAW file or JPEG. You're looking at all the changes plus the original file that's saved in a preview. That's the reason why your catalog gets so big, is because Lightroom is literally creating a preview of each of the files in your catalog. And it can get to be pretty big.
And do both of them show in the catalog, or is the original hidden somewhere else?
No, to answer your question, if I were to go to Windows Explorer, let me see if I'm sorry, I'm trying to answer your question by going there. I think I killed that portion of it.
Don't worry. Don't worry. And by the way, that photo is beautiful.
Well, thank you. That's what happens when you leave the campsite and everyone else is having a cup of wine and you're drinking it, but you get off your butt and you go drive and you shoot the photo.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, that was 2020, I think, October. So here I am in Windows Explorer, Blue Ridge. I'm just going to use this as an example. So I don't even know what these are. But you notice that there's two files. See the little picture?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the little picture is Windows Explorer trying to show me what the image looks like, what the original image. and that's absolutely fine. Lightroom, because I've made changes to this file, has created this little sidecar. So when I view that original in Lightroom, it shows it with all the changes. It's magic. Don't worry about it. So to answer your question, in Windows Explorer, you will only see your original file. And if you look at
We
Lost you.
lost you, Pat. I'm hoping he'll get off and get back on real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosemary was worried about hers.
Honestly, when I see somebody else freeze, I think it's me.
Yes, I was waiting for people to move. It's like, okay, we're all on.
And I saw Marge moving. I'm like, oh, it's not me.
A little bit more.
He must have went off.
We definitely lost them.
Yeah, he's gone off now. He'll be right back. But just for just for information, I shoot nothing but RAW, and I don't have only JPEGs are the ones that I export to be used somewhere.
That makes sense to me because I get overwhelmed with too much stuff going on, and that just makes sense to me. And
the raw files, you can do a lot more editing to them. They've got a lot more of the pixels to use. With JPEG, they get rid of some of the files, and if you want that way, you can import your raw pictures and put a pre-selection, or I forget what the words, but you set up a import thing, and it will bring it in with some of those changes already made. If you find yourself with RAW doing the same things over and over and over, you can set it up to where when you import it, they're already done.
Is that called presets?
Preset, thank you.
Marge, I think you're ahead of me. Like the more I hear you all explaining this, it's just, I have a lot to learn. I think I just have to really get in there and work with it. But it's good to kind of get to hear what you do. So one day when I'm ready, I can just, yes. But it's mind blowing. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
We're there with you. Don't worry.
Yes. Give yourself more credit. I think we feel all the same.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I bought my first digital camera in 2008. And I've still got the same camera, but it's 13 years ago is when I started with it, to be able to get to the point that I'm at now. Whether it's any good or not, I don't know, but I kind of like my pictures anyway. And that's what photography is all about. Is whether you like it or not. It's all for you. This competition stuff, you got to.
I enjoy just getting out and shooting, and of course I want to have a nice shot, but sometimes it's just being, I guess he's on the thing, on the phone. Just to me, it's just getting out and being present. Because
with you guys within. Oh. So the other thing I want to touch base with you is a lot of times when you go up to Photoshop, or if you use Helicon Focus, or if you use an external editor, you may kind of freak out what Lightroom is trying to do. Whenever you're in Lightroom and you go to Photoshop, say to do a type of an edit on a file, whenever you exit to Photoshop from within Lightroom, you start in Lightroom and you just, Judy, remember how we right-clicked on the image and you did edit in Photoshop last week? So it's the same way. So whenever you go up there, whenever you click File, Exit, and say yes, Photoshop will make a copy and the original Photoshop will come back down into Lightroom. So it's very cool, and that's called round tripping. So that's something that you'll do here. So in this example on the image, so can everyone see the image I'm talking about?
No.
You
Okay.
need to share your screen.
Yeah.
Details.
Marge, these guys are brutal.
I see. I'm not so bad after all.
No, scary. What a scary thing. So in this image that you see on the right side, if you notice it's got the .nef with the red circle around it, that's the original Nikon file. I took this file, edited in Photoshop, and I did a couple of edits there. If you notice, there's a little bit more saturation in the one on the left that I did in Photoshop, and there was something else I did as well. But the point is I'm trying to make here is when I was up there, I did a file exit, and it says, "Hey, Pat, do you want to save this?" And I clicked on yes, and then Photoshop closed if that was the case. And pop, bing, bada, boom, this Photoshop file just shows up on your Lightroom. So
does it do that sound effect too, by the way?
Bing, bada, boom.
Yeah.
That's how it transferred, right?
No more wine for you ladies.
So Pat, so it's saving on, I mean, you show the Microsoft Explorer, it's saving on whatever hard drive we use, but the thumbnail is the only thing staying on Lightroom. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Right. Yeah. You remember how I talked about how Lightroom creates a preview?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it literally does two. One is for your little film strip, which is very, very small. It's absolutely nothing in bandwidth. But when you look at a full screen and what we call the loop view in a 1-to-1 ratio, 100%, that's what really takes up all of the bandwidth. So catalogs, we're not going to talk about it much. We said if you wipe it, you'll be a little bit stressed, but you have not damaged your images. And if you create another catalog, click on the folder, bring it all back in. You just got a long time for all these previews to create for every file. So it's kind of funky. But don't sweat it. A couple settings just to consider when you create your catalog. Since I've talked to you guys this last week, I've decided to let go. So rather than back up my catalog every day, I've now changed it to once a month because Lightroom catalog has never crashed on me. So that's a good thing, right? Here's the one thing I wanted, I talked to the guys and ladies, whenever you're in Lightroom, from the menu, you click on Edit, Catalog Settings in General. And again, with the Mac, we found that it may be just a little bit different. This shows you where your catalog is located. The only time you really need to worry about this is when you want to back it up. So it's right here for you. If the one thing I do want you guys to do is go and look in your catalog, because by default, sometimes one of these three boxes are checked. So if you go into your Lightroom and you click on Edit Catalog Settings, and again, you'll get a copy of this, Edit Catalog Settings Metadata, that's the Metadata tab right here. Make sure none of these three are checked unless you've got a super duper PC. Because if you want to bring your PC down to its knees, click on this option to detect faces in all photos, or to have it plot out GPS if you have JPEGs. It will really slow your PC down. So again, only if you have problems. If you got it checked and it's working fine, that's fine. But if you have an older PC, like up until 3 months ago, my PC was 11 years old and it was starting to show its age a little bit. So I made sure that wasn't checked. We covered all this last week, but again, handling images. One of the key things is creating keywords. If you remember, Rob Herman was talking about, he was doing a photo album for his dog, and he wanted to find a way that he could go through all of his catalogs, all of his folders in his catalog, and look at these images and put them into a photo album. And then when he heard was when he was in the library module, if he was on a photo, he could add a keyword. Here, let me kind of show you. So I'm in library right now, and I'm looking at, how did I get Herman in this thing? Anyway, I'm in an image right now on Tybee Island, and I've already got Savannah as a keyword. I don't want that. How did I get Rob Herman's name in that one? Go figure. Michael let you know your question. I went under edit preferences and looked at it, and the comma and something else is a default splitter in between the keywords. I don't think a space is, but a comma and there's some other thing. If you go under edit catalog settings and look in there, it'll show you. I think it's under file handling. So on this one, I'm going to add the word Tybee. I'm going to put a comma and then just type Tybee. Man, am I having problems or what? Okay, you guys cool with that? All I do is press enter, because guess what? Now I have a keyword Tybee. So the question is, Pat, how do I use this? You go up to your topmost folder, you click on it once, you go up here to the top, and there's a search function. Now I'm going to click on text. I'm going to type the word Tybee. Now the question you have is, why did I go to the top folder? Who knows the answer to that?
Because all the other folders are inside of it, so you're able to look at everything.
Jamming. Very good, Rosary. So right now I type Tybee. So here are all the photos. There's Joy and me on the beach and just having a good time on the beach. And because I took the time to add the keyword Tybee. So that's really how it works. It's really that easy. And whenever you get finished looking at it, you can go right click on the image, Judy, right click, and then you can go to the folder in the library. So right now, Lightroom just jumped down to the folder that has my images right here. And again, once you do this once or twice, it's like riding your bike. But the key thing I want you guys to feel comfortable with, if you really want to take advantage of this catalog thing, is put in keywords. Like for example, Rosary, let's say you've got Labor Day party that you went to last year, and there were a couple folks in there that you want to remember. You could go to that keyword with that person and just type in their name, or you could type in Labor Day party for all the people in that image. And that way.
Could I click on all of the different images from the Labor Day party and then put the keyword for all of them at the same time?
In Georgia, the correct response is, yeah, buddy. Mm-hmm. I do hope that answered your question.
It did. It did.
You're absolutely right. So what Rosary's talking about, let's say, for example, I grabbed my flash and I had some kids kind of come on over in front of my garage, and I shot some pictures of some of the veterans that we kind of do about once a month, and we do things. So what I could do is what Rosary is saying, by holding down what keys, Rosary? Control plus what?
Control plus, oh, see, I have an Apple, but I think it's Shift Control Command.
Yeah, and on your machine, it is Command, but it's Control A or Command A. So watch what happens when I hold down Control and I press A. See how it picked them all?
Okay.
So now I could go over here and I could just type in something like flash test. I think I have to spell it correctly. And then that way, all of the images in there will have that little keyword. So if I click on this one with the girls, my next door neighbors, see how the keywords flash test are in there? So all these ones have got flash test in them somewhere.
They're cute.
Yeah, the kids are awesome.
I know. I just like that actually you and your neighbor you're just having fun.
Yeah, we were having fun. This is the guy who was painting our house. So I kind of enlisted everyone to come on out. So that's pretty much how that worked. It worked out pretty good, actually. Okay, so here I am talking to Chuck. I'm talking to Marge. I'm talking to Rosary. I'm talking to Judy. If you guys do not have a catalog, or if you're saying, oh my God, I just want to start over again, what you need to do, and I recommend it, you don't have to do this. So Judy, in your situation where you have an external drive, what I may consider is if you have everything under one folder on your laptop and you want to move it to an external drive, you would just click on the top folder within Lightroom and just drag it over to your external drive. That's all you have to do. And we'll do something similar to that here in just a couple of minutes. So Chuck, have you got your seatbelt on?
I do.
Okay, this has gotten way the heck easier. So we all talked about during our time just to create a new catalog. And to do that within Lightroom, you just click on File, New Catalog, and I'm sorry, let me start over again. So Windows Explorer, I recommend you put your catalog on your C drive because your C drive is your fastest drive. And whenever you're waiting for your images to come up and everything, it's worth it to have it on the C drive. So just create a folder and call it Rosary's Catalog. And then you click on File, New Catalog, find Rosary's Catalog, click it, and click OK. And what Lightroom will do is it'll create all the folders it needs. And from that point on, whenever Rosary adds files to it, it'll just do it automatically. It's magic. Just trust me. We're going to do this in just a minute. And I'm going to show you what we did with Chuck's. I kind of modified it. And to add a little bit of sweetener, Marge has got some folders on here that we're going to import. So this is how we do it. So from here, we would go up. So what we're talking about, folks, right now is you've taken the time, you've created a new catalog. And on the side, Marge has gone up to her iCloud. She's downloaded all of her photos to a folder. Underneath, she's got folders for whatever. Chuck's gone through, he's got his drive, he's dragged everything over to one folder in Windows Explorer, and he's got everything all kind of pictured this way. This is important, but it's not absolutely required. The reason I mention this is in case you ever have to back up this folder, it's way easier to tell your backup software to click on the top folder and say, back up everything underneath it, than to say, back up this folder, back up this folder, back up this folder, and you just get confused over time. So being of a mental acuity that is sadly lacking, I would recommend you guys just put everything under one folder. So that's what I did for Chuck's, and I did it for Marge's too. So let's talk to the process and then we'll do it. So what you do is you're in the Lightroom, you click Add Folder. See the little plus sign right there? You can also click on the word import down at the bottom too. One thing about Adobe, they give you 100 ways to skin a cat. So just pick one and do it with it. So whenever you clicked on that folder, it's going to come up and it's going to say, so here's the example I did for Chuck this afternoon. It's going to say, Pat, what do you want to input into this catalog? And so I went out to my P drive, which is my external drive, Judy, like you're trying to do. And I had all of Chuck's folders, not Chuck's real folders, but this looks like it's Chuck's folders. And I clicked on Chuck's photos. So I clicked on it and it says, do you want me to include subfolders? And I said, yes, I want you to include subfolders. So it went through and it showed all these folders underneath it. So from there, my next step was to go over and make sure it said add. By default, it will say add. Now, let's talk about this because this is really, really important. Whenever you add photos, a folder, Lightroom is saying, Chuck, what you're telling me is these files on the P drive, you want them to stay there, but you want me to add them into the catalog. Does everyone kind of think what I'm saying? Whenever you click add, you're saying, I don't want to copy them over. This is where they are and I want them to stay. So Judy, whenever you're on your new external hard drive and you dragged your pictures over to there, I know you've done Lightroom, so you want to drag it within Lightroom. But whenever you do it, you're saying, I want you to add all the information that's from there into there. A couple quick things. I explained it in the notes here. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Just kind of go through and look at these things right there. You will probably not add keywords if you're doing an entire file structure the first time, because keywords really shine when they're for like an event. Like Rosary, remember that you had your Labor Day picnic? Or Diane, let's say that you've got a neighbor whose kid had a birthday party. You went over there and you met and you took photos for them, and everything in that photo, you could block everything and add keywords to all those. Mike, you're out doing a landscape, you could add keywords to that event there. But to add all the folders with the same keyword, nah, don't do it. And all you do is click import, and bing, bada, boom, it'll move it over. And then Lightroom will come up and it'll show you your file structure in Lightroom. The import window will close. You're back into the library module. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, if I were Chuck, I would be happy because I just brought all of my raw photos into Lightroom. So let me show you what it looked like under the covers. So I'm going to go out to my P drive. Would you guys all agree that's where it was? And there's Chuck's photos right here. Now I'm looking in Windows Explorer, not Lightroom. If you notice, it's got a structure here. Under the 22 through 7, he's got Atlanta Botanical Gardens, Jim's Marietta, Rosary's Skateboarder, Tybee Island. And then what I did was I just created stuff with folders in it. But here's the key. Folder 1 is empty. Folder 2 is empty. You can see the word empty folder there. Folder 3 has got some stuff in it. Okay, so that's enough on Windows Explorer. Let's see how Lightroom handled this. Look at that. Folders 1 and 2, other folder 1 and 2 had nothing in them. So guess what? Lightroom did not bring those folders over. But all the folders under the P drive, under Chuck's photos, came on over. Is that cool? Okay, I'll help you. That's pretty cool.
Yes, that's cool.
Very cool.
As
So
soon as
Chuck-
I absorb all that, it'll be cool.
Exactly. I'm a little confused, but that's okay. I have an Apple computer and I think it's different. So it's.
Patria Filii Spiritus Sancto. Okay.
Me too, Rosary. Maybe we can help each other.
I think Marge, you and I with our cameras and our computers, we're gonna have to pair up.
Marge and I spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about this, and I was having problems understanding Finder and the iCloud and everything. And Marge, I thank you for putting up with me. Rosary, God bless you. That's all I can say. I wish you luck in your new endeavor.
Well, Marge, they say that the best way to learn something is to teach it. So maybe you can teach me what he, seriously, if maybe we can hook up sometime. I would appreciate that.
That sounds good.
Sure.
No pressure, no pressure at all, but I expect you to teach it to me.
It'll only take about 5 minutes, Rosary.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Pat.
Oh, no. It's good questions. Again, more information here. Don't worry about it. So our next instance is, I don't know if I have a card. Let me go grab one real quick.
He's going to show us a memory card.
We're going to show you a memory card. Okay, I just came up with a joke. Are you guys ready?
Always.
You know you are really, really old when you no longer care about memory cards because you're in memory care.
That's bad.
Is
Bad,
it
bad,
that
bad,
you
bad.
don't care about the memory card, or is it you just don't remember the memory card?
I know. Okay, so right now, so we shifted. Chuck is there dancing in the room. He's having a good time, and I'm back in Lightroom. So for me, there's a way you can check it. So anytime you insert a card, Michael, if you want Lightroom just to be listening all the time, if you check the box and you insert an SD or an XMP card from your camera, then Lightroom will all of a sudden just pop up and bring up file import. I choose not to do that, but that's a way of doing it. So what I do is I can either click on File, Import on the left side here, or if you notice down in the bottom left, you guys see the Import button?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can click on that as well. But I'm a creature of habit, so I'm going to click on File. Import photos and videos. Yes, I could hit Control-Shift-I, but I'm that. Potential things to bring into Lightroom. So I have my XMP drive, my XMP drive. I have my, maybe I should be in memory care. Anyway, so
I have some connections, Pat.
Oh boy. So with my memory card, it's showing up as the F drive. So these are all pictures from a little thing we had, and here's we were celebrating Joy's mom's 96th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Wow,
Is that
that's
cool or what?
Fabulous.
So right now Lightroom says, Pat, I see this folder and I can do all this. I've already imported all this stuff, so I'm just kind of showing you this. So Lightroom by default will kind of look at this. What you need to do, and I'm going to save you from getting excited, I strongly recommend you always check, and just let you know this is sticky. Once you do it one time, next time you go into File Import, it'll do it as well. So if you notice, Lightroom is already going through already and saying, hey, I've already got these files in the library. The reason you don't see them all grayed out is because I brought all of these files into Lightroom, but I only kept like 4 or 5 of them. So the ones that are grayed out, Lightroom says, hey, Pat, I got this file over here in the file system, so you don't have to do it. What I want to show you here is just talk it through quickly. So I recommend, Diane, when you're importing stuff into Lightroom, are you doing JPEGs or RAW files?
oh no.
Did I
She's
lose her?
muted. She's muted.
Okay. Yo, Diane. Michael, how about you? When you bring stuff in, I think you said you do both RAW and JPEG, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So whenever you bring in a RAW file, obviously it takes longer to build your preview. But if you got enough RAM and everything, you can choose a one-to-one preview. If you look here, there's options. I would recommend if you got an older PC, Chuck, maybe just stick with standard, because the only time you really worry about one-to-one is when you zoom in on the photograph. So just to get things going, if you got a slower PC, just click on standard. I just click on one-to-one, and I say don't import duplicates. So Rosary, if you notice, this has saved me many a time from taking a memory card that I got distracted and I stuck it in again, trying to import it, and Lightroom is saying, stop, you've already done this. Look at what you got. So that's that. Rename files.
Excuse me, when you're importing though, like when I import to my computer, it's going to my Apple, my iPhoto, or I think it's called Photo now. So does it do it at the same time with Lightroom then?
Well, remember how you went through and you built your catalog and then you've added all your photos? So what Lightroom is saying, going back to Marge's thing about the table of contents, if your files are in that table of contents and you try and bring in another file with that same name, Lightroom's going to catch it. So that's basically what it's doing here. It's not an absolute, and the reason why I say that is it's going to import into a file.
Froze up again, Pat. Oh no.
Silas, can you still hear me?
Now we can.
Now we can.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go a little bit. So,
Yep. And he's gone.
again, all this is a thing. This is my root folder. This is my topmost folder. By virtue of you saying within Lightroom, the very first time you import it, saying, this is my topmost folder, it's sticky and it's going to remember that. So always don't fool with this because it's going to throw your folders underneath it in the right order.
So, hey, Pat, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So the very top folder, like, since I've never used Lightroom before and I've got thousands of photos, is it going to take all 1,000 photos or do I need to break that up?
Hold that thought for like 3 minutes, and we're going to do Chuck's example, and then we're going to do your import as well.
Okay, holding.
Okay. Holding. I'm in a holding better. Okay, let's go ahead and do that thing. If you notice here, this afternoon, I did an import. I took some of my files and I renamed them with an X in front of the name and some other things so I could trick Lightroom into bringing them in for a second time. But I'm Marge. This is the first time I'm going to start up my catalog. So to start it up, I would go out and click on my topmost folder that's called Marge's Photos because I've gone to the iCloud and I've downloaded all my files and put them in Finder underneath there. So Rosary and Marge, are you cool with that?
Yeah.
So
I'm not really sure I understand, but that's okay.
Okay, this is the topmost folder that I went into Windows Explorer or the Finder, and I created a new folder called Marge's Photos, a new one. And I went up to iCloud, downloaded all the files off of iCloud, all the folders from my camera from before, put them underneath this folder. That's what this structure is right here.
And then you just go back and create subfolders, right?
Yep. And
like Rosary's Labor Day party.
Yep.
But do you have to recategorize, or they, like what she was asking before, do they all go in if I have thousands of pictures from before and then I have to organize them?
Here's the beauty of when you do folders. I've never done it before, so when Chuck and Marge were asking the questions, I really didn't know the easy answer. Whenever you do a folders import, Lightroom honors your folder structure.
So you would just do each folder individually?
No, that's the beauty. You just go and click on that top folder. We're going to do it in just a minute, Rosary.
Okay.
Click on the top folder and it'll bring all the ones underneath it.
Okay.
Can I do this again? Bing, bada, boom. So, yeah, whatever. Okay, so here we are. So we're in here, and I know I've got a brand new folder I want to bring into my catalog. It's already on my hard drive, so I want to bring it into my catalog. So to do that, right next to the folders, there's a plus sign. So I'm going to click on the plus sign because I want to add a new folder. Not individual images, but a new folder with boatload of stuff underneath it. So I'm going to add a folder. Is everyone cool so far? This is so easy. I danced around the room when I did this. Okay, so I'm going to go out to my P drive where I added Marge's stuff. If you notice, there's a folder here called Marge's Photos. You got it? So I'm Marge, iCloud, lots of work. I built a boatload of subfolders underneath here. This, and it could go down 50, 60 folders, Rosary. It doesn't really matter. But what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the very top folder that has everything underneath it. You guys took the time and you put everything underneath this folder.
But if you've never done that and all you have are thousands of photos from the beginning of time,
because
you
you're
need to.
Yeah, because you're like Chuck, and over the years you've kind of built folders already. So what you did is
No, I haven't.
No, I'm Chuck.
Oh,
Chuck,
okay, sorry,
Marge.
I'm not Chuck.
Yeah, you're not Chuck. So you would just drag those folders underneath Marge's folders. So Rosary, if you probably have some structure to your folders in iPhoto or something, don't you?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I do and I don't. I have structures in iPhoto itself, and I that's what I did during COVID. Is I took all my pictures and I organized it. But I don't know where iPhoto saves it on the hard drive, like in the cloud and stuff. I don't know if the structure keeps when it goes to the cloud or the hard drive. I don't know if it's just like thumbnails, like what Lightroom is. Does it? I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Marge and I went out when we were talking. We actually went out to the iCloud on her PC, and it looked like Lightroom Classic cannot look at the cloud, the iCloud. So Marge has got to bring all of her iCloud photos down to her PC and put them underneath that one folder called Marge's Photos.
Okay.
Here's the good news. It's a one-time deal. So if you look at Marge's Photos, I built some dummy photos, folders with some photos in them. It's not showing me photos because it just wants to look at a folder. So let me go back to the P drive. Okay, you guys cool? I just clicked on Marge's Photos. So Chuck, you would click on the one called Chuck's Photos. Diane, you would click on your folder that you added all the other folders underneath. Call it Diane's Photos. You can call it Pictures. You can call it whatever you want. But the beauty is to bring everything under one folder before you do this. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click Select Folder. Now, if you notice, because I'm doing it, it's only adding information about it. These photos and folders will not move. That's important to understand. So I would recommend everything looks cool here. I would just hit import. I don't remember seeing a prompt that said include subfolders. Did you?
No.
Oh, look at here.
No.
So here's Marge's folders. Can everyone see this on the left side?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Here's the deal. Lightroom now knows Marge's folders are on the P drive, and any changes she makes to her folders, Lightroom will keep up with her from that point on. So what I did was I took some of the Astro stuff we did a couple months ago and added them here. And here's Joy's peppers again. And I'm sure you guys remember the green door from session 1. And here's the railroad tracks. So this is all stuff that was in all those folders I kind of threw under the thing called Marge's folders. Rosary, to answer your question, are you seeing how I kept the exact structure of the folders underneath Marge's folders on my P drive?
I do. Yes.
Tell me again.
Go ahead.
The P drive is equivalent to what?
That's kind of my question. Like what you see on the left, is that equivalent to your Explorer?
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, I was. So here's Marge's Photos.
Right.
If you look at it, this is exactly the same structure.
I see. As in Lightroom.
Kind of right here. Now remember, this is other folder 3. It's right here.
Mhm.
The reason you don't see 1 or 2 is because Lightroom did not have anything in those folders. So it doesn't bring over empty folders, which is a nice thing. But that's it. So to answer your question, I'm trying to get this as close as I can to the edge so that you guys can see it's basically exactly the same. You guys see it right there? So this is Lightroom.
Mhm.
This is Windows Explorer, and this would be Apple Finder.
Okay.
So Chuck, are you happy now?
Somewhat. No, I mean, yes, I'm really happy.
I mean,
I've just had so much frustration with my computer. I'm on my wife's tonight.
how easy it is.
So, yeah. So,
Chuck, if you need some help, just email me. We can do a one-on-one to kind of get
Okay.
you through it.
okay.
And ladies, I'll be happy to help you too, but I just don't speak Apple. Michael, are you good on Apple at all? You want to get involved in this? Ladies, call Michael.
Did he say yeah? Michael, do you have an Apple, Michael?
I do have an Apple, but I use it just for viewing only. I do all my edits on Windows.
Okay. And you like Windows better for your edits?
Actually, the edits, I can either go both ways. I just like the Windows because it has a larger screen for viewing.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes larger screen wins.
Mm-hmm.
Judy, I'm going to answer your question here. Let's say, for example, all of your photos on your C drive were in this thing called Chuck's Photos. Are we cool?
Yeah.
Okay, you have hooked up. Now, Hylos does this all the time. So Hylos is plugged in an external hard drive, and it's right here. It's the one called LR 2021. Let's say this is my Z drive. So this is my Z drive. If you want to move all of the stuff in your catalog that's on your C drive, guess what you have to do? It's really this easy.
Drag and drop.
If I just click on the right thing, it works even better. Okay. All you do is click on this folder right here,
Mhm.
and you click and you drag it to your new drive. That's all you have to do.
I'm going to try it. I'll let you know.
Really. And if you need help, just kind of talk. Just call me and I'll be happy to work it. Seriously, this will take 5 minutes tops. Hey, Hylos, can you give them some feedback on yours? Because you're really just an external hard disk drive, aren't you?
Yes, the only way I do it is when you go up to import, when you go down, the way I do it. Now this may be different than his, but at the bottom left, you see the import. I click on that one and it'll pull up my memory card up to the top left-hand side up there. And then over on the right-hand side under file handling, up at the very top, I'll put I'll assign it a place to put it on my P drive or my two external hard drives. I'll put it there, and then down where it says make a second copy, I click on that, and then then I put it on my second external hard drive. So then I do any of the keywords and all that I want to do. But then when I import it, I've immediately got two copies. I've got a copy on my first hard drive and a copy on my second hard drive. And then after I correct them or edit them or whatever I do to it, I save them to my C drive because that's where I'm going to use it from. Does that make any sense?
You don't send it back to your external hard drive for forever saving? Because
when I download it or when they import it, they go to the two external hard drives.
But you said then you edit it.
Then I edit
So
off. I edit on one of those hard drives. I just usually the hard drive number 1 is the one that pops up when I edit it.
So does it get automatically saved on hard drive number 1 after
Yes.
you've made the changes?
Yes, it's
Oh,
changed.
okay.
It is changed in the catalog, and
Okay.
it's my understanding that the part on the left hand side of your Lightroom is your catalog settings. The way your catalog saves it.
Mhm.
Is that right, Pat?
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like, I'm looking at it right now, like the iCloud, you asking about the iCloud on the Apple, it looks like a Finder, but none of my photos are on it. It's only like my documents. What about you, Marge? Are your photos on your iCloud?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you have to set it up that way.
Okay.
My son-in-law set mine up, so.
Oh, there you go, Rosie. You need to call her son-in-law.
Yeah.
Hey, Laura, are you set up to where you're using Lightroom now?
Pardon? I took a Lightroom Classic basic class a few years ago and was using that and had my catalog all set up. And then we switched to the Adobe Creative Cloud. And so now I'm doing stuff in that Lightroom and Photoshop and just moving files and Explorer. Okay. And I haven't done anything in the Lightroom catalog in a year or two easily.
Now, in your version of Lightroom, that's the web version.
Yes.
Trust me, it's got a catalog. It's got a catalog too, but it's in the cloud.
Yeah, but I don't put anything in the cloud. I leave everything on my hard drive. So yeah. I don't have a catalog set up like that.
Okay. Okay, so you're just really waiting for us to get to the photo editing stage, aren't you?
No, guys, this is all interesting.
Guys, here's what I found out, and I finally broke the code. I noticed some of you have not been turning in images for the novice competition. And I think what I'm hearing is some of you are still trying to set stuff up. So that's the reason why last week I took a lot of time trying to talk to you guys about what we're talking about right now and just getting everything set up so that you can start moving into it and start having some fun with all this. I mean, this is a lot of fun, but it takes some time to set it up.
Yeah.
And when you spend a lot of time just trying to figure out something basic, then you just kind of, it's hard to go and submit a photo when you're stuck.
I know. Okay. I totally get it. I do. And that's the reason I'm glad that Michael understands Apple. And it's kind of now, if you guys notice, when I sent the email out, Michael's name is on there. So if you need to talk, no, I'm serious. Michael doesn't mind. Michael doesn't mind.
No, I'm good.
Hey, Laura, are you doing Windows or are you doing Apple?
Oh God, I'm doing Windows.
Okay.
I don't think Apple. I actually think DOS and old computer stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely Windows.
I like you.
Does that mean you don't like me?
But, huh?
Does that mean you don't like me?
Well, the Apple is too much for me.
Okay.
Yeah. My mind just doesn't work like that. Give me basic Fortran, stuff like that, and I'm a happy camper.
I got you. Diane, are you on Windows or Mac?
Windows.
Okay. So everything you're hearing kind of hits home a little bit?
A little bit.
Okay. Are you doing Lightroom Classic or are you doing Lightroom like the web cloud thing?
Actually, neither.
Okay. Well, here's the good thing. Whether you call it Lightroom, you call it Photoshop Elements, you call it Capture One, you call it working in iPhoto, all these basic editing things are all pretty much the same. So I guess that's the good news. Oh, speaking of bad news, um, I think some of you may have seen the email I sent out this afternoon about our field trip canceled. We were setting up for Japan Fest on the 18th and 19th of September. They basically shut it down due to COVID. So I'll try and set something else up for you on that. Okay, this is all important. Do you feel kind of comfortable about there are two ways of importing files? One is with a folder, kind of like Chuck, Marge, and Rosary are trying to do. They kind of jump stuff. And then like Hylos and me and Michael, we're just copying stuff off a memory card. And we've already got this kind of figured out already. So do you guys all feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I have just one question though.
Sure.
So when I try to drag those files and put them in the my external drive, the problem I had is that it wanted to put it in an existing folder. It did not want to take the folder structure it was already there and just add it to the external drive. So it only allowed me to put it in a folder that was already there.
Sure. Just create a folder called Judy's Photos.
And just do it that way.
Yeah, sure.
So, okay,
just like Marge and Chuck were doing.
Okay. So there's really no good way of just taking that folder and dropping it into the external. I have to do another folder and then drop it into that folder.
That is my understanding. It has
to. You have to tell it where to go. So you need the folder to tell it where to go, right?
Yeah. You see, I was dragging it over, but then it just wouldn't let me drop it into the external drive named the way it was named. It wanted me to put it in a folder that was already there. So that was the problem.
Okay. I just want to talk this through kind of quickly, but it's important. On this screen at the bottom of it, I'm showing you 3 packages that I know about. My understanding with the Apple, just like Windows, you can have a basic photo editor as well. But I really think if you're going to be doing any sort of meaningful photo editing, you really got to step up to a package that I guess you should buy. Michael, is that a good way of saying it?
Yes.
So your choices are, on my opinion, and there's some information down here to kind of help you kind of get through it. If you just want to go very easy, I would just recommend that you start out with Photoshop Elements, lay down 60 or 65 bucks. You buy it. It's good for a calendar year, I think. And then they will give you updates. After that time, I think they give you raw file updates to it, but I really don't know how it works exactly. But I've got a buddy who's been using Photoshop Elements for like 3 years now, and he's perfectly happy with it. He's not in the club, so he doesn't have to do the file export thing to 2,500 pixels, but he just loves Photoshop Elements. Didn't Mark Buckert, our competition chair? I think he uses Photoshop Elements.
Yes, he does.
So Mark's been turning photos in forever. If you guys send me an email saying, Pat, we'd like some more information on Photoshop Elements, I'll set up something, if Mark is agreeable, set something up for you guys just to talk and see if it's your cup of tea. I don't want to force you into Lightroom, but what you're learning in Lightroom, chances are it's called and looks different, but it's really the same thing. All these packages have got a file handler, file management, and a photo editor package. They're just sitting there. And Capture One is a relatively new one. It is not Adobe, but it's out there. It's becoming more and more popular. But guys, here's the bottom line. If you want help with Lightroom, you can turn to Michael, you can turn to me, you can turn to Hylos, you can turn to Jim. There's a bunch of folks who knew some of the Lightroom basics. My focus is Windows, but there's some guys that do it in Apple. if you have an Apple Lightroom and you want to transition Rosary, and Marge and you just can't seem to figure something out, just send me an email and I'll find someone in the club who can help you if Michael can't help you.
Umit is pretty good. Umit does the Apple, and he's, from what we saw at our last little field trip, he's an excellent teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was. Thank you.
What kind of photo editor was he using, Ilos?
I thought he used Photoshop.
He used Photoshop.
Oh, Photoshop. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
may I make one comment about your little table that you got here? Go back up
Sure.
to the top of the 3. See the second line?
yeah.
Destructive, non-destructive, destructive. If you do one of the capture or the Photoshop elements and you make some edits on it, you've done it. You can't redo it. It's in there permanently. Whereas with I use Lightroom, so I'm maybe a little biased, but non-destructive, if I do an edit, I can come back 6 weeks later and look at it again and say, no, I don't like that one. I'm going to do it again. You can. Where the other two, you can't. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm going to take a couple quick seconds here and just run through it. Diane, so you're still on the fence as to which software package to kind of start working with. Is that
Yeah.
right?
True.
Okay. If this table does not help you and you still want a little bit more information, Michael seems really up on it. Hilo seems up on it. I can help you. It's just, all I'm saying is that you just got to do something. Just pick one. Just pick one and run with it.
Okay.
Laura, you're doing Lightroom, but you're doing the web version, right?
Right, but I do most of my edits in Photoshop.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. When I say Lightroom, I mean Lightroom.
You're talking the whole thing. Yeah. Adobe. Yes.
Hey,
Michael,
Laura, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Laura?
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you're in Creative Cloud and not the Lightroom Photoshop combo?
Creative Cloud is the combo, because I've got that one too.
Yes, because it seemed to be either do the desktop version of Lightroom Classic and do like a Photoshop something, or do a $10 a month subscription to their Adobe Cloud, which gives me Lightroom, Photoshop, and Camera Raw. And it gives us 2 users. So Rick and I, my husband and I, can both use it for $10 a month on 2 different computers. So that was why I went that route.
So you're paying $10 a month for Creative?
For the Creative Cloud, yes.
Yeah, but it's the version with Lightroom and Photoshop.
Right.
Yeah.
And it does the same things that Pat's showing. It's just, like he said earlier, it'll call it different thing, a different term, or it'll be placed in a different spot on the screen. But the functionality seems to still be there.
I'm a little confused because I've got the $10 a month deal, and what Pat's been doing tonight is exactly what I've been doing, with all the bells and whistles and everything.
My Lightroom looks very different than what his looks like.
Do you have Lightroom or do you have Lightroom Classic? In other words, does the icon say LRC or just LR?
That's it. It's the Lightroom. It's from the cloud. It's not the Lightroom Classic.
Okay, that's
like what he's showing.
Okay, I don't want to confuse things. I just, because it provides both Lightroom and Lightroom Classic. I just, my son-in-law works for a TV station and I have access to different things. And I was just trying to figure out the difference. So I don't want to take up your time.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's going to go one way or the other. Like, it's going to be tough, but we'll be fine, or it's not going to work. Yeah. But I hope it works. It's all right.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would recommend is just pick one or the other.
I'm back.
Yeah.
What's this on your head?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm determined, and I will be anyone to have malice to come back.
Okay. Okay, so that pretty much finishes that off. But I just want you guys to feel comfortable with whichever way that you guys like to do. So, what would you guys like to do? A lighthouse or a water fountain at the botanical gardens?
Lighthouse. Lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so we got here a picture of lighthouse. Everyone pretty cool with it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first of all, what are the two things wrong with it?
It's not level.
Yeah, it's
Okay, got one. What's the other thing?
yeah, that lighthouse is the Tower of Pisa.
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of blow, right? I mean, it's kind of like, okay, this is something that my 13-year-old would shoot if I were to say it. So you guys know how to do all this. You really do. This is what we did. Oh, God. Don't tell me this before and after is coming back.
I'm sorry.
God, I hate this, Michael.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Pat.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so Michael, you're going to help me get started here. What is the tool from the tool tips here that kind of gets us to where we start with the straightening of the lighthouse?
It's the crop overlay.
You got it. And then what do I click from here?
You click on the angle down, the little right there by the angle.
Okay. Now, if you were to pick one portion on here to kind of draw your line, what do you recommend we kind of base our what's straight on?
I would do the fence.
Okay, the fence is good. We'll see how it goes. You know, luckily we all know Control Z, which is undo. And you know what? That's not really bad. So two options. You can double click in here or you can click done. So this is the I be done button. So there we go. That's a great start. Mm-hmm. So Marge, I would like to kind of go through and lighten up the fence and the house, but you know, this house is still kind of screwy over here, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the step we learned last week that was to follow on to that straight one step thing? Do you guys remember?
Well, it was the multiple edges.
Okay. Marge, that's perfect. So Michael, you tried the one stop, it didn't work. So we're going to go through. Lightroom can help us. So Marge, walk us through how to do this.
Well, I can't really read that, but you're circling something. It must be.
Okay. I'm going to click on guided, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't, my screen is so small, I can't read the words.
Okay. So I click on guided and it'll give me 4 lines to draw. I recommend 2 and 2, but it can be 3 and done. It doesn't matter. So where should I draw my first one? Michael recommended the fence. So I thought that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where's another straight line I could base this off of?
Well, like one of the, on the house, the vertical.
Because Michael, what happened was your straightening of the fence worked great, but it didn't really straighten the house as well.
Yeah.
So if you notice, it's done. So it pretty much got it. If you notice, the lighthouse is straight up and down.
Yeah, looks much better.
I mean, I could put one there, but let's just say we're done. So I'm going to click on the crop tool. And I'm just going to come in and say, you know what? This is good enough. We all know if you go into Photoshop, you can do a content aware, but we're not there yet. So Rosary, we want to go through and adjust the fence in the house to make it lighter. Do you remember how to do that?
Is that the one where you click on the paintbrush or on the right there? Yeah, adjust a brush.
Okay. If you notice, my sliders are adjusted from the previous time. How do we go through and shake the paint out so we start new?
Right, new.
Okay. And then we double click on what to kind of reset them all to 0.
Effect.
You got it? Okay. What are 2 or 3 sliders you recommend that we paint with over the fence in the house? These right here.
Exposure.
Whites.
Okay. Exposure sounds good.
Whites.
White sounds good.
And clarity.
Okay, clarity works. And the great thing about it is if you're doing it and you say, oh, that's not right, you can change it on the fly. So I'm going to adjust my brush size. I'm going to make it go a little bit slower down here, smaller, because I'm going to paint the fence. So let's see how the fence is looking.
Wow.
Anyone falling out of their chair yet?
Yeah, pretty much.
Good.
Where did you make the brush smaller?
On my computer, I have a wheel on top of my mouse. I don't know about you Mac guys. If you right click, okay, let me show you. If you're in this tool and you drive down to the bottom here, this is where you adjust the actual size.
Okay.
Right here.
And
So
you can also use your left and right bracket keys on your keyboard.
Good, Michael.
Yeah, your square bracket work.
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
Okay, so I really like the fence like this, but I want to make the house just a little bit not quite so whitish. So what do you think I need to do with my paintbrush, Rosary?
You go to new again, right?
Right, so I click a new paintbrush. So whatever I do now does not affect what?
What we did a second ago?
You got it. Perfect. So I'm going to lower the exposure just a little bit. Diane, are you cool with this? So I'm going to start painting here. And if I look at it, I'm going to say, this looks pretty good, but it's a little bit too harsh.
Yeah, it's a little stark.
Do you think I can go through and tone the exposure down?
Got to get a new brush.
Sure. See how that works?
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Is that nice or what? Because you clicked on new, it doesn't affect the fence. That's the beauty of the new brush. People kind of forget that. Okay, so I'm going to continue on here. Continue on here. If you notice, I haven't done the lighthouse yet because Judy's going to tell me how she wants me to do the exposure on the lighthouse. So Judy, what do you think I should do on that one? Stick with the same settings or change them?
I think you should stick with the same settings and see how it looks. But if you go new again, then you can change it.
Jamming girl, virtual high five. So now what Judy's saying is absolutely right. You can still keep going. Now if you make a change, it doesn't affect the fence, doesn't affect the houses. So I'm going to lower my brush down a little bit, but I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to make my brush really big and paint straight down like this. And you're thinking to yourself, Pat, I can't believe you're teaching us how to do this because this looks awful. Okay, let's drop down a little bit within the adjustment. And you notice there's a tool here called the erase tool. So I'm going to click on the other brush. I'm going to click on erase and look what happens now. I'm sorry, I'm going to drop my feather down to like 0. And I'm going to lower my brush down a little bit so I get a little bit of control. So now, do you see how I can go and I can erase the edge here? I know there's a little bit of a lag, but do you guys kind of see what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a nice thing. Hylos and Mark Buckert kind of alerted me to this when we did this class for the first time, and it is really a nice tool. The other tool you can use, Michael, is hold down the alternate key, and you don't have to click on the erase. It has the same functionality. Okay, so let's say I did an okay job. Let's just make believe.
Hey, Pat,
Yeah.
what about the auto mask?
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Hylos. Whenever I do the feathering, I'm going to pull the feather out about halfway. If you notice, it's really hard to see, but there's two circles there. There's an inner circle. Remember, Marge, we talked about this?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the outer circle. The feather is where it transitions off of the effect in the center. So the nice thing about Lightroom, if you keep your core there, it doesn't drift into the other area. So I'm being a little bit, thanks Hylos, this is a great tip. So if you notice, I'm being a little bit more careful now as I do this. Okay, you guys cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Hey Pat, that looks pretty good, but I don't know what I just did. Where's the one place I can put a check mark to see the mask? Remember that red stuff? Remember down here? Show the mask overlay.
Yeah, there you go.
Ba-bam! So see how it's showing you what's going to be masked by this effect? Oops, I'm sorry. I still got the erase brush check. My bad. So I'm going to go through and tidy this up just a little bit. But did you notice the effect was whenever I change the mask, it's only for the current brush, so it doesn't go through and keep it for the other guys as well. Okay, so Michael, this is for you. I'm going to hold down the alternate key. See how it went minus? Right there. So if I do that, I can go through and make sure the chimney doesn't get affected as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn the mask off. Judy, it's on you. Are you happy with this effect? You want to make it lighter, darker? What do you want to do?
I'd make it a little lighter.
Okay, so it's still checked. So we can go up, we can add the whiteness. See how the whiteness is kind of popping nicely? We can do the shadows, which is the black, and make them lighter too, as you kind of do. Of course, I could go through and clean this up. I just want you to kind of see the effect of the brushes. So you guys cool with this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That was good.
Okay, we ain't finished yet, everybody. What's the one tool I would use to do a gradient from the sky all the way down?
That's where
You got it.
right there.
Yep.
So I'm going to click right above here and go all the way down. If you notice, whatever color is in my exposure over here, it's adjusting it. So I'm going to make this a little bit darker and darker, and we'll play with that. I'm going to go real quick here, guys. I'm going to click on the brush, and you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold down the alternate key and make sure the lighthouse is not affected by the darkening that we're doing. So what I'm saying is, I got this beautiful mask here, but I'm taking the Lightroom out of the mask. Very cool. That's very cool. You will use that, I guarantee you. Okay, so here's a quick tip for you. Affect the sky, but just using your temp. See how the temp kind of drops the color? Blue and of course yellow that way. I'm going to drop it a little bit because I'm going to show you another way. And that's using the dehaze tool that Michael was talking about. If you do the dehaze, it kind of sharpens the contrast. And the other way you can do it is going down to the HSL color and going down to saturation for the blue, and you can kick it that way as well. So there's 100 ways to skin this cat. Have fun choosing your way. I'm just trying to give you guys just a little bit of kind of different ways of doing this. So I'm finished doing the gradient. How do I turn it off?
Done.
Couple different ways. I can click on the tool I can double click sometimes, or I can click on the done button. So I'm going to click on the I be done button. And there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the before. And here is the after. Which one would you rather send out to your friends?
Let me think here.
Yeah, let me think.
That's a tough choice.
Guys, all this is documented in the handout. I'd like to do one more if you got just 10 minutes. It's Rosary's skateboarder. Rosary was nice enough to let us use it. Let me see if I can find it, Rosary. I got to go to collections. Let me collapse this, this. Go to collections. Okay, so here's Rosary's picture. Whenever she started out, she said, Pat, I want to go through. This is a great picture. I like it, but I want to go through and I want to take those cars behind there and take the focus off of it. So Diane, I'm going to ask you for help us here. Which of the brushes up with the development tool would you use to kind of drop down the cars to paint them just a little bit darker? So right up on now here on this, which one do you think you would use?
She's muted. She needs to unmute.
Okay, that's fine. Chuck, how about you? Which one would you use?
Right there where your arrow is at.
Okay, the adjustment tool, that's perfect. Rosary, I want to shake the paint out quickly. How do I do it? So we're going to click on new. Double click the effect. Okay, so now we got a new brush. We're not bringing anything over from the Lightroom. So what do you recommend we do to drop down the exposure on your cars?
Exposure.
Exposure
Okay.
down.
Okay, anything else? And that's fine if you want to do that. That's fine. So I'm going to turn on the mask before we begin. Just see if you turn it on before, how you can just, you can kind of see what you're masking. And this is what Hylos was talking about with the auto mask. Because it senses what's within that circle and it tries to keep the mask in. But if you notice right here, I kind of slipped up a little bit. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, so I'm going to uncheck the mask because we see what we got. And so as we do this and drop the shadows as well, it doesn't really have a lot of effect. So exposure, I think you're right, Rosary, is the key to it. See how you can just keep on going down a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you guys go with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you guys ready for this? I'm going to reset everything. Judy, how do I jump into Lightroom? Right click.
Right click on the image.
Okay, then what?
Edit in Photoshop, in other words.
Okay, so we're going to take our adjustments, but I reset it to 0. So we're bringing up Lightroom. So Marge, my question is
Bring
this,
up Lightroom or Photoshop?
This is Photoshop. So as I'm opening this up, is Lightroom bringing my original photo or is this a copy of the photo?
No, it's a copy.
Copy.
Good. You got it. So guys, I'm going to go quickly. It's going to be brutal. This is the same tool we used last week. This is Super, the object selection tool. If you click on it, it's the very first one that pops out of the menu. I'm going to draw a box. Oh, come on, come on. Okay, it's confused. I'm confused. No, it's confused. Okay, it should pop in a minute. If I can, let me talk through what I wanted to do with Rose. Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So if you notice, you guys see what it just did?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Bing, bada, boom. So I'm gonna, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. If you look here, it did not get it. So I'm gonna click on the lasso tool, hold down the alternate key, which takes away from the selection. I'm not going to be very exact. I hope you guys appreciate that. But we're just going to kind of go around the image. And let's just say it looks pretty good. So I'm going to hold, if I want to invert it, so it's everything else, Shift Control I. So everything else is picked. Are you guys ready for this?
Yep.
I'm going to use the stamp tool, which is like a clone brush. So you hit the letter S, the stamp tool's in, so I'm going to make my brush a lot bigger. Are you guys picking up on that the kid is not selected, so he will not be affected by what I'm getting ready to do?
Yeah, you said inverse.
Yep. I'm trying to get this brush just a little bit bigger before it goes off the chart. Okay, let's just work with that. You guys ready for the magic? Okay, this is not absolutely cool, but it's pretty close. You know, I'm just playing around. I'm sorry. I'm paranoid about the time with you guys, but
Take your time.
Yeah, you're fine.
okay. So what I did was I pressed Control Z, same in Lightroom, same in Photoshop. Z is in the last letter, and your last action is Control Z. So I'm going to go down here and hit the alternate key to put some stuff up into the stamp tool. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger now. This is better. So you guys picking up on what I'm doing here? I'm just grabbing it from the arrow down here. I could pick it up from anywhere, really. And quite honestly, this was a lot of fun. You just kind of have a lot of fun and kind of think about it this way, Michael. If you had a picture of a top of a building across the way, you could bring this in and do a composite of this. Oops, I'm sorry, my bad. That's ugly. And, so, whatever.
But I see what you're saying. You're saying like put it in front of a really cool building.
Yeah, and then you could actually have them. You could put the top of the building about halfway up to where it looks like you could crop the building down however you wanted and just kind of make it that way. Are you guys cool with Lightroom Basics? Does exactly what you want it to do to work the image, but every week I'm trying to show you one thing into Photoshop to where you guys feel comfortable whenever you have to go there in the future to kind of do it. So again, this is not in the instructions, but if you look at last week when we did the, what's the thing we brought into Photoshop last week?
The peppers.
It was the what?
Peppers.
Yeah. So just kind of look at the handout for that and that'll explain what the peppers, yeah. And just kind of see how we did it with the stamp tool and we did that. So great tool. So don't freak out. I'm going to click on File, Exit. I did not save it. It asked me here to save it. Bing, bada, boom. Look right here. Here we go. See the little gray square down there in the film strip? It's building that image I just did. I hope it does it quicker because I'm embarrassed by what it's showing. But here's one.
There you go.
There's one that I did last week with Rosary just to get her excited about all this. So it's a great little tool to kind of do something just a little bit extra. Just want you guys to think outside the box a little bit. Do you have any questions about what we've covered so far in general to kind of get you excited about starting to import your photos into a catalog, or Diane, think about what software package that you really want to use?
I got a comment. Marjorie, did he ever answer your question about getting all your pictures in there without putting them in folders?
I think so, but I think I'm going to have to, once they're all in, I'm going to have to go, I mean, because it's going to go back, 10 years. I've got to, like on his display, it has the year and then a name, but mine are all going to just be in one folder until I pull them out into separate folders.
Okay.
If I understand right.
Hey, Michael, have you ever worked with iCloud and downloading the images? Will it keep the folder integrity or just dump the images into it? Do you know?
I think it just dumps the images into them. It's been a while. It's been a while ago.
If I understand Marjorie, she doesn't have them in any folders. She's
No,
just got 1,000 pictures
up in the cloud. Yep.
Oh,
and so she's got to
okay.
put them into folders in order to put them into another folder. Is that right?
She can bring down a wad of them and build the folders in Windows Explorer or in Finder.
Yeah.
And then you click on that master folder and then bring them all in. Marge, what you're going through is exactly what Hylos, me, and Michael, and Mark Buckard, even if you use Photoshop Elements, whatever application you use, you've got to do some sort of an organization.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I'll probably just, I was thinking I need to just moving forward, do it one properly. And then as I have time, get the stuff behind me inserted. That's what I think I need to do.
I think you're right.
I'll talk to my son-in-law. He might know and can help me.
Hey, Marge, just a quick question on your iPhotos. Are they grouped by year? Is that what you said?
No, they just have the the date stamp on it.
Oh, okay.
Like when I
Is there a date stamp on the photo?
Yes.
Oh, that's super. You could bring it in the Apple Finder and do a sort by the date stamp, and then just kind of create your folders so everything from Rosary's Thanksgiving picnic is in one place, and then just put it in that folder.
I don't know.
Let's start.
I don't know if this is going to be more confusing, and I almost feel like I shouldn't talk because I feel like I'm confused and I don't want to waste everybody's time. But Marge, in iPhotos, I think they just call it Photos now. I can show you how to just create folders within it very easily. The question I would have is, I actually did go to my cloud just now, and it is saved the way I organize the photos in iPhotos based on what I see. So it may even be easier to do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few albums that I created, a very few, because I take pictures of my patients, and so I have them but it's called an album, not a folder.
Same.
Right, exactly. It's called an album.
Yeah, but I've only got a couple of those.
Hey, Laura, is this a problem for you as well with the organization, or do you and Richard just not have a lot of photos?
Oh, no. I have been organizing photos by year. So within my master pictures folder, I've got another folder that's 1996. And then it's got subfolders for the various things within it. And then I've got the next one, 1997, and it just goes on. So,
right. I just have been busy taking pictures and not organizing.
That was a COVID project I did. Like, I just spent all my time at home doing that. So I almost feel as though I messed up, because when I organized my photos, my dad, before he passed away, he did it by person, kid. He has 5 kids. And so I kind of did it in that way. Like, I have one that says friends. I have one that says, I didn't by year, and it served me well going backwards. but maybe going forward in Lightroom, since you can do the
Keyword.
the keyword, then it would go to both, right? The year and the, I don't know.
I think if I was in your boat, since you already have some sort of an organization, I would keep that and just bring it into Lightroom. And that way you are like 80% there. And then from going forward, whenever Lightroom takes stuff off your memory card, whenever Michael goes out and does a landscape shoot and he clicks, does file import, everything that he shot during that day will come into a folder with that day. And then you can play around with it. I mean, Scott Kelby likes what you do. Remember, Hilo-C likes to have it by family, and then by country, and then by, so there are 100 different ways to skin this cat.
Yeah.
This is the way I feel comfortable. Kind of like Laura does it by year, and then she breaks it further down within months within the year, and then by events within that year.
Okay.
I think you already got a structure. If iPhotos allows you to bring it down and keep that structure, I think you're well ahead of the game.
Yeah, and I think that, but moving forward, I mean, it's one thing to have historic pictures for my family, that we sent off to say, we digitize them. I guess that's the word for it. But moving forward, you're going to have so many different things you're taking pictures of by year. I like that idea. And then within Lightroom, then just have the keywords to find it there.
So the nice thing about it, if you got Uncle Ted and your dad has a folder with Uncle Ted, then when you bring it in Lightroom, just Control A, assign the keyword Uncle Ted for all those. And then a year from now, when you meet with them and you can assign a keyword on that photo, Lightroom, keyword Uncle Ted, it'll pull up everything with Uncle Ted.
Okay. But it's saved on my hard drive or the cloud. It's not saved in Lightroom, but it's going to organize differently in Lightroom than it will on the cloud?
No. Remember when we did Marge's photos over here?
Yeah, right. I apologize. I mean, it'll save the same way on the left-hand side, like you're saying, but then the keywords can go into any folder.
In Georgia, the response is, yeah, buddy.
Okay. Well, then once you do it by year, it doesn't really matter as long as the keywords identify it.
Correct.
Okay.
Michael, have you used keywords at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm in total disorganization.
No, it's fine.
You and me, Michael.
One state or another. Judy's excited about keywords.
Yeah, as soon as I put them in mind.
Hey, Chuck,
mine are organized by photo shoot, but I don't have keywords within them. So if I wanted to find a person like Uncle Ted, I don't have that in there. So I've got a lot of work to do to put that in there.
So Rosary, it sounds like Judy is in between you. She's sorting it by event. So Judy could put everything for 2020, have a folder for 2020 in Lightroom. You can create them and then just put all of her photo shoots under 2020. So she has a little bit more organization. But we all do things differently, and that's fine. Whatever works for you is the right answer.
Yeah.
Well, it's partly, it's like that seemed to work for me, but while I'm listening to you, I learned from you, and it's like, well, I kind of like that too going forward. So how do you merge the two? Sometimes, I'll figure it out.
My opinion is pick one and stick with it, period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whichever one Pat used the right word a little while ago, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. The thing is, it's just when you do it by year, if you have an activity where you have family and friends there, you don't want to divide that activity into two different folders of my friends folder and my family folder. By having it by year and then just sorting through keywords, you're able to do kind of both. You're able to figure out who, my friend Lily is, and all those pictures come up. but then at the same time, you just keep it chronologically. I like being able to do both, I guess.
Yeah, like just in passing, this is one trip we went on. We went to Florida, and we broke all of the and we broke it down to each day. But if I did a keyword for Florida, I could find everything in those folders. Lightroom has the ability to put a color on a folder. So what I do is whenever I go on a trip, I color the folders green. So sometimes it's a quick and easy way for me to visualize what I did during a certain year without having to search on a word. But you know, this is called experience. Just get your feet wet and everything will kind of work from that. Diane, if you need help picking out a software package, please send me an email. I'll be happy to talk with you offline and we can work it on out to kind of get you going here.
Well, Laura has already had to leave us, so maybe we're getting close to the end of this.
Yeah, I think we spun this about as much as we can do.
That horse is just about dead.
Yep.
Time to dismount.
So Marge and Rosary, my best to you. Please be gentle with Richard and
and Umid has it too, right?
Yeah, and Umid probably knows it too. So
okay.
Here's the key thing: someone in the club can help you. You have to let us know what you need.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us. It's been 2 hours, a little bit longer than I expected. I'm sorry for the trouble I had with the Zoom.
Oh,
that's all right.
It happens.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Pat.
your help. Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.